let's go ahead and make our own spreadsheet. So first in Mac, for the Mac we want to open numbers. I'll open a fresh one here. Just a blank one will be fine. Get rid of that other one too. And we want to label the first two columns as time and model. Then the next three will be our student's name and the number of their attempt. So here I have Mizuki's recordings. So Mizuki 1, Mizuki 2 and Mizuki 3. Then I want to go back into the Praat software, and first of all I'm going to collect the data for the intonation from the model, which is this top one here. I press view and edit and it brings up the information. Next I want to highlight this section where we actually see the data and go to pitch and pitch listing. So this gives us in a numerical format the intonation data. Now I want to start my graph with the very first frequency value, and I'm going to do that so that I can align Mizuki's recordings with the model recording. So I'm going to ignore this first one, which is undefined value, and I'll go straight in from here onwards. I'll just scroll all the way down, and again I don't need those last two results because they have no value for the pitch, so I'm just going to copy to this section here. You can do that by pressing Ctrl and C or edit and copy. Once I've done that, I can go into my spreadsheet and I want to be pasting this here on A2. I can do that from edit, paste or Command and V. So then it dumps all of the information in one column, and that isn't what we want. We want to separate these two. So how do I go about doing that? Well, in numbers I need to have a special service function. Now this doesn't come with numbers. You do have to download this function. It's on the handout that I gave at the presentation. We want to be able to do this text to columns function. This text to columns function is already available. It comes with PowerPoint, but it doesn't come with numbers. So we do have to download that. But once you've downloaded it and restarted numbers, it should appear here under numbers, services and text to columns. We want to click on that and it will ask us, how do we want to separate these two numbers? Now actually, if we go back to the Praat menu, what we can see here is the difference between these two values is actually 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3 spaces. So what we want to do is we want to make a new column every time there's a space, which will separate these two numbers. So if we go back to our spreadsheet, we want to go down to space. So every time there's a space, it will create a new column. Let's press OK. And then in the top right hand corner here, it just reminds me that I want to paste the new results. And I can just do that in the next row. So I'll go to edit and paste. So what that does is it separates the two. It's given me 2 blank columns. That's just because it created a new column every time it found a space. We don't need to worry too much about that. All we're concerned about is that this is the time and this is the frequency. We don't need this first column anymore because we want to discard of that because it's got both of the data in the same column. So I'm just going to press delete on the keyboard. I'm going to go up to the top of this model row here, and this is actually time, so I'm going to drag this into the time column. Then I want to get the model's pitch information. So I will highlight all of that there, and I will drag that into the model row. So that's the first result. That's the model and the time into our spreadsheet. So next up, I want to do Mizuki's first attempt. So I go back into the Praat software and I repeat the process, but for the Mizuki 1 file. I go to view and edit as I did before, and I highlight Mizuki's first attempt. I can even listen to it if I press the tab key.
Yurika, do you like movies?
And then I go to the pitch listing and down to pitch listing, and it will bring up Mizuki's information. I think I highlighted one slight part of this which occurs here where there is an undefined value, so I don't care about that, and I'm just going to copy down. By the way, I cannot copy just one row because of the way that this information is formatted. That's why I have to do the services and text to columns function. It's just the way that the data is formatted, and there's no getting around it except doing the text to column process that I showed you just before. Okay, so let's go and edit and copy, and let's get that into our spreadsheet again. So again, it dumps them all in one row. So I want to go to numbers, services, text to columns, and select space again. Press OK. It's going to tell me to paste the values, so I'm just going to do that in the next available row. By the way, I pressed Command and V there, which was a shortcut on my keyboard to paste this, and now it's separated them again. Now I don't actually need this this column of data. This is just a time information. We're not too bothered about the time information for the following Mizuki's recordings. We just want to all align them to start at the same time as the model. So I can just go ahead and I can delete all of the information in these rows because I just want to be left with Mizuki's pitch data. So I press delete on the keyboard, and then I'm just left with Mizuki's data. And from then I can just copy and drag this to Mizuki 1 and repeat this process another 2 times for the next 2 recordings. Okay, once we have all of our information into the spreadsheet, we want to make the chart, but before we do that, we just want to check that the time column has values that go down as far as the longest recording. As you can see here, the time values stop as the model has reached the end, but actually Mizuki took a little bit longer to do the speech, so we just want to make sure that there are values that go all the way down to the end. They do change incrementally in an equal value by 0.01. We could spend a lot of time typing these numbers out, but there's a very much an easier way to do that. We can just select a few here, and when we hover over the bottom of this box that we've made, a yellow circle comes up, and we can push that down and it will automatically continue the pattern that is highlighted before, and we just want to drag that all the way down to Mizuki 1, which is the longest recording, because Mizuki 2 and Mizuki 3 had already stopped recording by this point. So once we've done that, we want to highlight all of the values in these 5 columns, and we want to go to chart and make a chart. I recommend the 2D line graph for your results. There is a 3D line graph that looks pretty cool, but it isn't quite as clear, so I do recommend this 2D one. And once you click on it, you get this absurd looking graph that comes up. We want to change that. We want to make it much easier to understand, so we can edit the graph on the right hand side once the graph is selected, as it is now. But first we want to get rid of all of these circles because it's very difficult to understand exactly what's going on. So we want to double click on each line, and we want to go to Style and Data Symbol. We want to change that from a circle to none, so we just get a clear line. We want to do that for all of the lines, so it becomes nice and clear exactly what's going on. Now when you produce these results and show anybody at all, we aren't particularly interested in the exact values of the time at the bottom, and to be honest we aren't really interested in the frequency value. This is measured in hertz. Nobody really needs to know that. We want to make this as simple as possible, so we just select the graph here and we go to axes. So on the Y value axis we want to make sure that the value labels isn't set to the same as source. We want to change that to none, and that just makes them disappear on the Y axis. We want to do the same for the X axis, category labels to none, so that makes them go away. I don't like this line here, so we can untick the axes line. That makes that one go away. If we go back to where is it? If we go back to the Y value, we can change the amount of steps in this scale by changing the value here. We can see there are a different amount of lines. I like to get rid of them actually. I like there just to be one, so it's plain white in the background. And we can change the scale of this graph, so the top of this at the moment is set to auto. I like to make them all the same because some students' results will be more dynamic than others, and it will make their results seem different basically. So if we set them all to 500 or 700, you can change the scale of the graph so everybody can kind of see what their friends are doing and it looks kind of similar to what they've done. I always set mine at 500 actually. Okay, so that's looking much better. But it's still kind of confusing. There are lots of lines on there. We can't really tell easily which is which. So I'm going to copy this graph 3 times. Just press copy and paste. So that makes a new graph. I'm going to drag that down there. And I'm going to do that once more. Just paste the same one again. And I can drag that down here. So then we've got 3 different graphs. But what I want to do is I want to delete Mizuki's second results and Mizuki's third results from this graph. Just leave this graph with her first results. Her first results are labelled as green. So we want to leave the green line, and I also want to leave the blue line in there as well, which is the model, and just leave these 2 lines in there. So I want to delete the yellow and the orange line. So I'm going to go to the yellow line, double click it and press delete on the keyboard. Now you have to be careful here, it can be quite confusing. It's actually changed her third results from orange to yellow, so just keep an eye on that has changed colour, and actually I want to delete the yellow line again. So that's just left me with Mizuki's first results and the model speaker. I want to do the same for the next 2, but with the second I want to leave her second results in, and with the third I want to leave her third results in. So I want to delete this green line, which represents her first attempt, and this yellow line, which represents her third attempt. Okay, and then do the same for the last one, but leave the orange line in there. Again, it's changed colours, so we just need to be careful of that. I don't know why it does that, it's a little bit confusing. And delete this green line. Okay, so they are her 3 results. I don't like using blue and green together because some students may be colourblind, and blue and green are very difficult to distinguish between, so I like to use blue and orange. I can change the colour of this by going to Style and changing it to orange here. Do that for all of them. Make sure that you don't get mixed up between the model and your students' results. It can be very confusing later on down the line. And Style and orange. Okay, so they are my 3 graphs, and I'm ready to use them to make my English board. Let's see if I can find my English board. So this is my Halloween results English board that I prepared earlier, and then I can basically copy these and paste them into pages. I'll just paste that in there. I use the shortcut on my keyboard and it's thrown it down there. So all that I did after that was I resized them and I repositioned them, and I put them all into position here and inside the pumpkin, and then I copy and pasted the results of the pronunciation test. I put them in there, printed them out, laminated them, and put them on the English board. So that's it. That's how you can use them in graph form as well. The other useful thing for using a spreadsheet for the results is that you can manipulate them in Keynote as well, which is what I did in the presentation at this part here. So I copy and pasted it into here, actually twice. I copied one in and deleted Mizuki's results, and then I copy and pasted and overlaid them, and I used a built-in wipe animation so that as she spoke I aligned the animations so that with build 1 the chart wiped in, and build 1 is Mizuki's audio recording. So let's listen to that and see how you can put that onto a presentation.
Yurika, do you like movies?
So we can do various things once we've got it into the spreadsheet format. So there you have it. That's how you make a spreadsheet of your students' results.